All
right. Hello, everybody. Tara Bachland here with the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism with another watch party at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. And tonight we are featuring one of our female reproductive health classes, which is about perimenopause and menopause. And this is taught by Matthew Wood, our very own Matthew Wood, and Phyllis D. Light, one of our primary teachers at the Institute as well. And first of all, I thought it would be, in addition to introducing Phyllis, maybe what the heck is, I think a lot of us find out, women, well, men too, find out what perimenopause is when it hits. But maybe you could give us a little introduction so we're all in the loop.
Well, perimenopause is the time period previous to menopause, anywhere from 7 to 10 years before menopause, where hormonal levels are starting. I went away for a second. And estrogen is going up and down. Periods might be erratic, periods might be shorter. There might be a little weight gain, maybe a difference in digestive activity, but there'll be some shifts and changes that are noticeable to those going through the process. And then menopause is technically the cessation of menstruation, no more bleeding. No, now you're in menopause. And then postmenopause is like the years after the lack of fertility. So no more fertility, no more bleeding, menopause, postmenopause, still fertile, still bleeding, but erratic. Hormonal changes are beginning to happen. Things might be getting a little erratic. That's perimenopause.
And so technically menopause is the year after your last period.
Yes, you have a whole year, because sometimes it comes back for a visit or for a month or two, and then sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just like turning off a faucet. One month it was there and then it's never again. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's like, oh, it's not there. Oh, 2 or 3 months have gone by. I must be in menopause. And it's happened again. Great. Yeah, it's come back. And so it's a whole year without any bleeding, without a monthly cycle.
Now I've heard, like women in maybe even like associated with blue zones or ancient cultures that really keep that culture. Like I hear that they don't really experience menopause or perimenopause.
Maybe not in the same way. Certainly there is still menopause. Mm-hmm. But, there's so many factors that go into that. Number one, from my point of view and my investigations, is stress level. Cortisol and being in chronic stress really affects the whole cycle in ways that we're just now understanding the tip of the iceberg on. But that's probably the number one difference between these, areas of blue zones where people live at least to 100 and experience different types of perimenopause, menopausal symptoms than, we're going to say, Western women, particularly in the United States. So that is a factor. And then diet, because in many other countries, phytoestrogens are high in the list of foods that are eaten on a daily basis. And phytoestrogenic foods can kind of help mitigate some of the effects of, aging, of the shifting hormones as we age. And help keeps our bones healthy. I mean, I can't say enough about legumes. Whatever your legume is, you should have one every day. A serving every day at least. So that's how important phytoestrogens are to our, I think, longevity and our ability to kind of move into menopause without a lot of symptoms. So stress level, diet, lifestyle, exercise, how much are you moving? It's study after study shows that the more we move, and this is walking or gardening, it doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym, but it means staying active, kind of helps shift the processing of the estrogens in our body also. Are we getting enough sleep? So there are so many different factors that go into, of what kind of perimenopause are we going to have, or what kind of menopause are we going to have? It's not one thing. You can't just go, this is the one thing. It's this many different things, there's a list.
I always think that we're just going to have a quick intro, but all of a sudden a bunch of questions come to my mind.
Bring them.
First of all, wherever you're joining us, please chime in the chats and let us know. We always have people joining from all over the world. Would love to hear where you're joining us from. I'm here in nearly central Minnesota, so that is the northernmost part of the United States, in the middle of the United States, next to Canada. And we have Lee and Alberto join us. Lee is neighbor here in Minnesota, and Alberto's in Canada, kind of like a neighbor as well.
Yes, a northern neighbor.
A northern neighbor. And Phyllis is in Alabama.
Yeah.
Straight south from us.
Directly south. Okay.
So what comes to mind is reasonable expectations. Like, what do you think is a reasonable expectation that a woman might be able to aim for in perimenopause?
And what kind of expectation are you talking about here?
So, if a woman is like, I'm not going to have any symptoms at all, I'm going to do all the right things and get it all in order, and I'm never going to have a hot flash, that's probably not so reasonable, or a reasonable expectation.
It varies. It totally varies. And again, stress level is a big part of this, because as we are transitioning into menopause, we don't stop making estrogen. We still continue to make an estrogen. We're just not making it in the amount needed for fertility. But that doesn't mean it's turned off and it's not there anymore. It still is. It's just below fertility levels. And to help compensate, other organs in our body also begin to make estrogen. So a one that picks up the load are adrenals. So the more stressed you are going into menopause, the more likely you're going to have hot flashes, erratic periods, sleeplessness, sweating, because you're already in stress. And now you're added another stress to the gland. The liver makes some estrogen. The brain makes some estrogen. Fat tissue makes estrogen. Fatty tissue is a big maker of estrogen. So going through into perimenopause, menopause, most women put on at least 5 pounds, maybe 10 pounds. And this is the body's way of trying to compensate for dropping estrogen levels by saying, oh, we're going to put on some fat, and this fat is going to make estrogen that you're missing. So this is a reason why women kind of put on weight, and they go, I can't lose these 10 pounds. They'll come off one day, but and then that part of that's genetic. And so, genetics plays into all this. I'm still trying to lose that last 5 pounds, that I put on for estrogen compensation, but it's also cortisol compensation. So we have to look at it like that. Cortisol is laying it down. The byproduct of that is estrogen.
We have Michelle chiming in, who says, where's up here? Hi, just go with the flow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just try to stay as healthy as you can in that process. But for some women, it does mean looking at lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And because things you could have done in the past and your body kind of compensated over, like, hey, I'm going to binge watch Netflix all night tonight and then go to work because, I am really into this series and I'm just going to stay up all night and watch it. When you were 35, you could do that. When you're 50, That's not going to be happening the same way. So there are things that when we're younger and our hormones are peak, our body kind of adjusts. But then we hit menopause and our body is like, no, if you stay up all night, you're going to be dragging butt all the next day, and you're going to be craving carbohydrates because that's what our body does when we don't get enough sleep. The next day, we crave carbohydrates, we release leptin. Oh, here's where that 5 pounds came from. Right.
What a cycle. You know, a couple of years ago when we made this series of classes, didn't apply yet, but boy, when I was re-listening to this in preparation for tonight, I'm like, making notes, this totally applies. And one of the adages at the Institute is, when in doubt, use nettles. It's kind of out in the herbal realm as well. I think for this series, it's more, when in doubt, use vervain.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Good motto.
Good
So
motto.
part of our watch party tonight, we're going to watch some highlights from our perimenopause and menopause class, focusing on the perimenopause part. One of the great benefits at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism is that when you take a course or a class there, you have access to the teachers. That includes Phyllis, that includes Matthew. We also have a very knowledgeable staff to help you out. And so, tremendous, right? You get so much information in the classes. There are documents to read as well. Many of them pre-published or unpublished documents by Matthew and Phyllis in particular. And so you have so many resources to aid you there. We're going to get into the watch party, but Phyllis, it's hard to turn this one off, but do you have any closing comments or insights?
Well, you know, yes. Hold on. Let me get my brain and mouth working at the same time here. You know, it is a process that every woman has to go through, and men have their own, you know, like their pause in there too. But this is definitely, you know, something that is innate to human life. And we are fortunate that among all the mammals and primates, we actually live past fertility, right? Because so many species, once you're through being fertile, it's like, oh, you have no purpose on this world anymore. You're dead. You know, where we live a long time after fertility, we become grandmothers and great grandmothers and grandfathers and great grandfathers, and we continue to be able to contribute to our families, to our communities, to society, to the world. We get to do that past fertility. And that is like a blessing, I think, that is often overlooked. You know, I think indigenous people understood this a lot better, so that the grandmothers and the grandfathers were the wells of wisdom, and all this knowledge that they had accumulated over their life was sought. It was like, when in doubt, go ask a grandmother, or when in doubt, go ask a grandfather, you know, because there's all this information in there, all this knowledge. And so I really do want to encourage everyone either going through perimenopause, in menopause, or having a family member that has gone into menopause. Just remember, you are accumulating experiences of life that you will be able to pass on to the next generation and the generation after. And that is so wonderful and unique. And I'm getting chill bumps saying it.
That's a wonderful closing message. Absolutely. It really coincides with Sandra's chiming in. After not having my period for 2 years, I held my grandson and I had one period a week later. I mean, it's just, I mean, isn't that kind of a testament, you know, to that connection also? And
yes,
we're energetic in that way too.
That's right. Right. And this can be one of the most spiritual times in your life too. You know, going through menopause, and your kids, if you've had children, they're up and grown, they're on their own path. And now you get to concentrate on you also in a way that you haven't maybe been able to do for the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, ever how long it's been. Yeah. You get to rediscover who you are also.
Well, that's a beautiful closing message. And certainly in the class as well, you share at least one remedy that helps with that process as well. So Phyllis, I know you have some stuff to get off to tonight, but I'm really glad and appreciate that you could join us for the short bit.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I want to mention also that along with this watch party, we're going to put a link in the comments below. We're offering 50% off any of our female reproductive system classes, and as well as our Herbs A to Z, which has some gems of female reproductive system related classes, and our library A to Z, which basically just bundles it all together plus 90 some other courses. And we'll show you at the end, we'll give you a little tour of the site of what that all looks like and what's included. But just know that you can check out the comments and it will have a link that will automatically apply that discount, whether you purchase something a la carte or to one of our subscriptions, the Herbs A to Z or Library plus A to Z. And you just need that link and it will follow you and apply that discount automatically. But we have people joining us from all over and chiming in. Please continue to chime in. It's really great to hear from all of you. This is certainly something that people tend to have something to say about. We have Maria from Seattle, and we have Livia, blessings from Southern California. Cherishes in South Carolina. She's joining us here. We also have Leanne from Fergus, Ontario. People literally joining us from all over the place. Would be interested if you are currently going through perimenopause or you've already gone through that delightful process. What was your biggest symptom, would you say? It'd be interesting if there's some common, like top of the list symptoms. We are going to cover in this watch party here some of the most common symptoms, like, of course, hot flashes, heart palpitations, and the like. So stay tuned. We're going to share some of our best of sections of this really rich class and the materials we have to offer. Before we go on to the watch party, Lee, Alberto, have I forgotten anything? I feel like I did things out of order today.
I don't think you did, but I wanted to chime in with something that Phyllis said about how it's such a special time in a woman's life, the perimenopause and then menopause, of course, not having kids, but the wisdom that comes with those added years. And I learned recently that it's only 2 species of all animals that actually become infertile towards the later part of their lives. And it's human beings and elephants. And it was in a podcast I was listening to, the scientist was saying how it's actually really the reason why is because of course childbearing can be dangerous and is a high risk activity, especially the older that a woman gets. And so in not being able to bear children anymore, it preserves the woman to be able to continue growing in age and continue being around with all the accrued wisdom that they can then share with their offspring or the next generation, but also the second generation down, or the grandkids, if you will. So elephants and human beings, who would have thought?
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, and also, I mean, elephants are in some ways synonymous with wisdom, aren't they, in some cultures? Yeah. We have Lucy, Chrissy is chiming in, insomnia. That would be, that's tough. Livia is asking, what is the usual age for perimenopause? That, as we'll see I don't know if it's in our clips tonight, but that can really vary. And in this course, Matthew and Phyllis have mentioned they've known people who've gone through it very early, but it might not, that's not the normal. So, maybe mid-30s, but typically mid-ish, early 40s and on, and sometime, and then full-on menopause, early to mid 50s, but it can really vary. So, yeah. Well, how about we'll have plenty to say after these clips. How about we get into it?
Sounds good.
All right.
This is the time period I really encourage getting your adrenals as strong as possible, because this is the time period as the ovaries are producing less estrogen. other parts of the body want to compensate and try to help bring balance there. And one of these organs or glands is the adrenal glands. And during this time, the adrenal glands will start making some estrone, type of estrogen, but so will body fat. And this is, I think, one reason the menopause or the perimenopause 10 is so common is fat cells make estrogen. And so when our estrogen starts dropping and the body is trying to compensate, maintain some type of homeostasis, there is some weight gain, and this weight gain helps compensate some for the loss of estrogen by the production by the ovaries. The brain begins to make a bit of estrogen, and so does the liver. So it's not that the body isn't making estrogen anymore. It's just the roles of where it is produced is shifting. But adrenals is bearing the heavy load in this shift. So get your adrenals as strong as you can, like figure out your stress triggers, really work on reducing that stress level. All right.
Yeah, that's what Phyllis was saying. Reducing stress level is so important, and makes me think of our, traditional cultures versus our modern day culture, and how stress can just creep up from work mostly, but in comparison with traditional cultures, just all that the stress that comes with a career and whatnot. I wonder if that plays a role. A significant role in how women experience perimenopause and menopause.
That makes a lot of sense too, because the shifting roles of just our society now is making more demands, and women are, balancing that career and still a family, and that, just creeping up, and like Phyllis mentioned, with all that cortisol and stuff like that. That makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of a nice reminder, though, to give yourself a tune-up a little bit, just to check in with yourself a little bit. And there's plenty of, herbs to support that, and we'll hear about a lot of them. But that's actually, it's nice, because it's almost like your body's giving you permission to kind of switch gears, check in, switch focus too.
I have so many comments at the moment. I'll say one that I put in the comments here. If I've just started going through some of this, and if I could just it's, putting on the extra weight is not so bad. It's just if you could just shift it around and just decide where it goes. Sometimes you have to joke about this, and I'm sure there's going to be some hot flashes. We're right before Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and I think there's going to be some hot flashes in and outside of the kitchen. So this is also a public service that we're doing tonight. So you'll get some solutions here as well. We have some interesting comments from YouTube. So what puts the older ladies in the mood? Well, that's not really the focus of this content, but certainly if she's taking some of these herbs, it can definitely calm those symptoms, and that certainly helps. So that would be one additional reason to keep listening. So what's next?
Here we go. We got another clip coming up.
So wild yam is, let me address yam, the food, first, because when I was a young girl, it was common knowledge, like every mama told every daughter, once a month you eat a yam and then you won't have any problems. Oh. And we did. I mean, that was what we did. And yams are not sweet potatoes, although sometimes they will label a sweet potato as a yam, so you have to be careful. Yep. Sweet potatoes get much, much bigger. I've always thought that they've been genetically modified to be sweeter and bigger than the ones I remember from my youth, because we grew our yam and we grew our sweet potatoes. But yams are smaller than sweet potatoes. Yeah, something like that. And they're not as sweet. So when you go to eat them, if you think it's a sweet potato, you will soon be surprised, because while they are not totally bitter, there is definitely a hint of bitterness to the yam, hence all the brown sugar we put on them, or all the honey, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I think that came from. Let's, got to sweeten this up a little bit because it's a little on the bitter side. But it was just common knowledge. You eat yams and, gosh, you don't have any cramps, don't have any period problems, and you're fertile. That was just part of home remedies.
Yeah.
And now it's like almost impossible to find yams in the grocery store.
Yeah. Right.
You have to go maybe to the Chinese grocery store. That's where I have to go if I want some fresh, and then only at certain times of the year, or the Mexican grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Using it for any kind of ovarian pain, very useful. So, pain in the ovaries, pain at ovulation, wild yam is super useful. And you might only need it for 2 or 3 days, because it is actually the most bitter thing you've ever put in your mouth. You think American ginseng is bitter?
It's much more bitter than the food yam. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's, wild yam is more bitter than ginseng. It's more bitter than American ginseng. Yeah. Because wild yam has this acridity to the bitterness also. So you're getting like 2 tastes at the same time. It's like,
the back of the throat, that's the most bitter taste. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And it's also can be irritating a little bit to the back of the throat. So I usually suggest, in my tradition is, and in my youth, in my early herbal days, not my youth, my early herbal days, it was a tea. I would cook up a decoction for people, but it was just so bitter. People could not do more than 1 or 2 sips at a time. So if you're doing tincture of wild yam, I suggest about 3 to 4 drops a couple of times a day to help balance hormones. It'll help ease cramps. It's antispasmodic, so very useful for that. It improves vaginal dryness during perimenopause and menopause. Really, really helpful for that. So I had one client, not a happy story. I'm telling you this in advance, not a happy story, but it was like good to know. So I had a
Yeah, and this course as well, this class is full of case histories, which is super duper helpful because you get things in context. Now, Alberto, you have experience in the kitchen, and as well as being a super fan of plants. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but can you spot the difference between a yam and a sweet potato?
Yes. We don't get them up here in Canada too much, but in my travels and back in Colombia, we did have wild yam, although there are no traditional dishes that I'm aware of in Colombia that are with wild yam. Perhaps more in the jungle there are. So it's not an herb that I had a huge familiarity with. Especially not medicinally, until I heard Phyllis talking about it. And it's, goes back, it really reminds me of going back to traditional cultures and how Phyllis was mentioning, just eating a yam, not a wild yam, but just a regular yam on a monthly or even weekly basis, and how that was common folk knowledge to help with female issues. And so that's so interesting, because that's something I think we're missing in our modern day tradition, or modern day society. We don't really think of these upkeeping type of traditions or habits, rather, that we can do easily from our own kitchen to help mitigate issues.
Yeah, it's another. It's not in our kitchen remedies because that's more ailment-based, acute kind of conditions, but certainly food, right? Food remedies, which are covered in Phyllis's nutrition courses as well. Lee, I mean, you're local, and our co-ops tend to have a lot of the same products. Does your local co-op, and you work with your local co-op, do you think yours are yams or sweet potatoes?
They're sweet potatoes. Like different varieties, different colors and everything, but they're definitely sweet potatoes. Yeah, the yams they're, yeah, like Phyllis had mentioned, the specialty grocery stores like Africa, the yams are from Africa and Asia mostly. And I think they're gonna probably have I would think like a little bit of a soapier taste to them as well. Yeah, Phyllis mentioned how they were bitter, but everything that I've gotten at the co-ops, everything I've gotten at the grocery store, regardless of the color, has been sweet and very yam-like. That might be your best bet to start and ask ask your produce people, because a lot of those specialty, if you're lucky enough to have co-ops, they will know the difference between them. They'll be able to tell you if it's truly a sweet potato, but that's really what we have going on here for the most part, unless you're growing it specifically for the purpose of herbal medicine.
That makes sense. Yeah, because we get monster ones here, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like what Phyllis is describing,
Yeah.
even for the non-wild version. So
Yeah, they're small. They're like this big.
okay, then it's definitely not those. Ria says wild yam was incredibly helpful for me during menopause. So good to know. Also, another comment in YouTube. We have a hubby chiming in apparently, or male partner. I put a mini split in the bedroom on top of central air to help with the hot flashes. What a kind thing to do. So that's very thoughtful. Very, 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 very thoughtful. So we have more clips than we have time for. How about we do a vote? What are the topics that are of the clips still? And let's have a vote on what ones you would like to hear. Alberto, what are the topics we have yet?
So we've got American ginseng, moisture, perimenopause, and menopause. We've got American ginseng, and this is more immune and metabolic and cognitive, how it relates to that. We've got another one, American ginseng again. As you can tell, American ginseng is a useful herb here, and this is a case history. And then we have blue vervain, which was mentioned earlier for hot flashes and night sweats. Then we've got black cohosh for emotional and spiritual transition. We've also got heart palpitations, hawthorn versus motherwort. And the last topic is vaginal dryness and micro tears. That's a short one too. So
how about we go to the vervain and the hot flashes, because that hands down, of course, that is a very common issue. And then chime in the chats on which clips are interesting you the most and which ones you would like to listen to next. And we'll basically take a vote in the comments there. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. So Alberto's getting that queued up. Of course, this is just a fraction of what is offered in this class. We wanted to pick out some of the highlights. And so we'll get to as many as we can tonight, but we're only going for about 45 minutes. So we're getting close there.
Here we go.
Well, let's see then. So onward into hot flashes and night sweats of menopause. And yeah, well, I would say sage does have a reputation here, but I never got it to work that much. I had few cases where it was beneficial, and I have found, on the other hand, my number one remedy is so good is blue vervain. Probably any vervain, but blue vervain's what's native. And that's just superb for hot flashes and night sweats. Also feeling driven by your hormones and food cravings, and just feeling off hormonally. And not only is there a hormonal quality to blue vervain, and blue vervain is in the Verbenacea family, which includes Vitex, the great prolactin remedy. So it actually does have some sort of hormonal qualities that haven't really been tracked down. But the thing about it is that blue vervain like when you have a fever and the skin just will not open, where you can't get a sweat to come on. And in the old days, I mean, well, probably still, but I haven't treated a case like that where you get children would get seizures and stuff if the skin didn't open, because it gets so hot on the nervous system and everything. But at any rate, to open the skin, well, so if you've relied on antibiotics and you haven't been working with your skin so much, by the time you get hit menopause, you're gonna have more, your skin is not going to be as good at opening and closing like that. It's either going to open too much like night sweats or not enough, and then boom, a whole bunch. So I found, I would have to say blue vervain is maybe 60 to 75% of the cases of hot flashes and night sweats.
There you go. When in doubt, use blue or vervain. You could use any of the types, actually. Really great. You could use a tincture. I love the flower essence. And it is amazingly helpful. It is also great for a certain personality type. The joke, although it's very true, if you're this type, hopefully you can laugh about yourself. I am this type, so I'll say. If you find yourself writing more lists than usual, it is time to take vervain. And I'm saying this because I just experienced this in hindsight. Like, yeah, I was like chronically making lists. So lists are good, but there's a certain limit where you're going into vervain territory.
Well, also blue vervain is such an interesting herb because, and so many herbs are multidisciplinary, so to say. They cover so many different things. And in the vervains class, for example, that's found in the Herbs A to Z course, Phyllis mentions how blue vervain is one of the herbs she uses for sleep apnea. And so while these are not necessarily, sleep apnea and perimenopause are not necessarily related issues, if you're experiencing both, that would certainly make it difficult to sleep. And here you have an herb that could probably address both at the same time. So yeah, just interesting to think about the different uses of blue vervain, and or just if you're all up in your head, then that's going to make it hard to sleep too, right?
The vision came to my mind, like if, the remedy is counting sheep at night to get to sleep. If you're like, well, Sally the sheep needs her nails trimmed and Berta needs, her coat trimmed, then you're probably a vervain.
I like how Matthew mentioned that it was for hormonal eating, because that's like that whole I understand what that's about. And I mean, that can happen at any point too. It doesn't have to be perimenopause, but that's like that driven thing that's so vervain. And it even affects eating patterns too, where it's like, I'm not even hungry, and yet here I am craving. Two, I think it helps like when you're super like sensitive to like things are just irritating you, like you can just barely hold it together and everything's agitated, like for like sounds and stuff like that, where that just gets to be, you're so sensitive on top of it. So I'm going to throw that little tidbit out there with blue vervain, because it's just a great remedy to have on hand for the special time.
For sure. I totally agree. Yeah. Well, the vote was the heart palpitations. So we'll go to the heart palpitations link, great choice, clip, and then we'll give you more information on the 50% off any of our female reproductive system classes and more at the Institute, because there's a lot more, and there's some real gems that are also in our Herbs A to Z section as well. So take it away, Alberto.
Yeah. Also, I would say kind of trouble focusing, feeling hot, bothered, waking up in the middle of the night. That fits Hawthorne so well. I have not used it for menopause, but it actually sounds like it fits here. And that's a heart remedy too. So, maybe change it.
Oh, we didn't mention heart palpitations are very common during menopause.
Motherwort? So, what would you suggest?
I would suggest the hawthorn. I think it kind of like calms things down without over calming them down. Of course, there's a word I'm looking for there. I think hawthorn is more supportive. with the hormonal changes. I think motherwort is excellent for the anxiety when a person has anxiety and their heart is running away from them. But I like hawthorn better for menopause when the heart and the muscles, like everything else in the body, is adjusting to new hormonal levels. So it's an adjustment. So I like hawthorn for supporting the heart with any adjustment, like losing weight, hawthorn, any adjustment to the body.
Yeah, I think what they were going for is it's calming without being sedative. Does that make sense to you guys too?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it too because you can get it tastes really nice. It's very easy to take. So there's another gem. There's so many other items covered, like Alberto read off, for all those symptoms, but they all work together real wonderfully as well.
And herbs, right? They're so many of them are safe, and so many of them are accessible. They're also not expensive once you know where to find them. So it really is. I think it bequeaths us for perimenopause or anything really in general as a society, turn to herbs, because not only can they help support us, but they can help prevent issues from getting worse. Especially if you start ahead of time and if you're diligent about taking your herbs, but just even if it mitigates it a little bit, it's worth it, right? And then you don't have to turn to you don't have to experience the symptoms as much, hopefully, but B, you don't have to turn to other more invasive methods or forms of treatment.
Yeah.
Well, it's saving, honestly, like I just think about sometimes the embarrassment that some people have come across, like whether it's the night sweats or just feeling like your heart's racing and like you can't sit still, like, it makes being social hard, or it can make being social very hard. And if you can spare somebody a little bit of that, I mean, for, pennies on the dollar with an herb, that's an amazing thing. It's certainly worth trying.
Yeah, for sure. And these are easy to get. So a lot of people ask, where do I get these? There are reputable sources through the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. We do offer our members a coupon for reputable sources. One of them that is very loved amongst herbalists is Mountain Rose Herbs. If you are a distributor or maker, you can contact us as well if you want to offer a special discount for our peeps. And but these are very easy to get and make yourself. Actually, they're very easy to make yourself, which of course we teach at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. But usually when you want these, you want them now. So all of these you should be able to get at your local co-op, and often even places like Whole Foods. Bach Remedies, they often carry, Bach Remedies has vervain. Hawthorn is very common. You might even be able to find something similar in the family. It's in the apple family. So you can, in a pinch, you could use apple juice. It's going to naturally be calming as well. It's different, but heck, why not, right? So anyways, before I get off on too much of a tangent, check out the course. You have access to the teachers as well, and ask all sorts of questions. And this is one of our classes of the Female Reproductive System series. There are 6 classes in total. These segments that we watched were from the perimenopause, menopause, and aging. We only covered the perimenopause today, but there are other courses. Alberto, you have control there, and you can see those better. Why don't you take it from here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the link in the comments, by the way, is directly to this perimenopause, menopause, and aging class from which we watched clips tonight. And this is from the Herbs in the Female Reproductive System series. There's 6 different classes, as Tara mentioned here, that you can definitely check out by clicking on any of those links. But there is a 50% off coupon attached to this link. So when you visit this link, if you want to check out, you'll see that the coupon is applied at checkout. I'll show you that just so that you're familiar with it visually. It helps, especially if you're coming to it later. The coupon's already pre-applied at checkout for you. So all you have to do is click on that link in the comments and check out any of the other classes from the female reproductive system. Matthew, all of the 6 classes are taught by Matthew and Phyllis, and they have over 70 years of combined clinical experience in herbal medicine. So they have so many examples, case histories, and knowledge that comes out throughout. And while the other classes of the female reproductive system are different topics, like there's a class on menstruation, there's a class on the uterine tone, bladder and pelvic floor, and other topics, they do bleed into each other. The different topics bleed into the different classes because, of course, it's all about the female reproductive system. And there is also a full class on the male reproductive system. That's not part of the female reproductive system, of course, but you can check that out, as well as some of the other classes that are relevant to tonight's topics. If you go to Learn, and then you go to Herbalism Courses.
When you search for the female reproductive, would you also read off of each of them? It's hard for some of us to see.
Yeah, no problem. I'll bring them up a little bit
Thank
bigger
you.
here. They were harder to read, but we have so many different courses at the Institute. There's over 100 different courses. So if you want to save yourself some time, go ahead and type female into the search bar, and all the female reproductive courses will come up. So we have Overview, Heritage, Hormones, Tissues, and Stress. In this class, Matthew and Phyllis overview the entire series and highlight the heritage herbs of the North American tradition. Very interesting. A full class on menstruation. Uterine tone, bladder and pelvic floor is the 3rd class. Then we have female reproductive system, yeast infection, vaginitis, HPV, and herpes, followed by pregnancy, delivery, postpartum, breast health, and lactation. And the last class being perimenopause, menopause, and aging, from which we sample tonight. So as you can see, the topics are pretty much laid out in the chronological order of the way in which they'd be experienced. So you can go through them one at a time. They are, you can purchase them individually, and the coupon will apply to any of the ones that you want to purchase. But if you want to access all 6 of them, then I would recommend that you go to the homepage. And rather than purchase each individual class on its own, go to the Library plus Herbs A to Z, and the coupon will apply for the Library plus Herbs A to Z at checkout as well. Once you click on Get Started, you'll see just how much is included in Herbs A to Z, or in the Library plus Herbs A to Z, excuse me. And you can do that by scrolling down here. And there's this carousel that shows you all of the courses that are included. So as mentioned, all 6 of the female reproductive system classes are included in the Library plus Herbs A to Z, as well as the male reproductive system class. And in the Herbs A to Z, some of the classes you might want to check out are the female remedies class. Then there's the Queen Anne's Lace and Red Clovers class. There's the Three Sisters, Pulsatilla, Black Cohosh, Peony, and their cousins. And you also have Woodland Plants and Heart, Hawthorn, and Friends, which would all relate to either the herbs or the conditions that came up in tonight's snippets from the perimenopause and menopause class. But as you can see, I'm still scrolling, and we're not even halfway through. There's over 90 courses in the library. Herbs A to Z is mentioned. That's its own course with over 80 recordings. So phenomenal as well, including the classes that I just mentioned. And as mentioned before, the male reproductive system. But there's so many great topics and so many body systems that are covered in different courses. So if you purely just want to get into the female reproductive system, the Library plus Herbs A to Z is definitely the way to go. And you can go month to month. So you can commit to as many or as little months as you are able to or as you wish. And on top of the 6 female reproductive system classes, you would also have access to all the other courses that I just showcased there. lastly, too, Herbs A to Z is a great way to go. And as mentioned, all the classes mentioned outside of the female reproductive system are found in Herbs A to Z. Is there anything else that you, Tara or Lee, wanted to say about all the wonderful content?
Yeah, there's some real gems in the A to Z, like you mentioned, and those are good for like the person who wants to explore. If you definitely just wanted to study a topic, I'd encourage you to check out the a la carte options. Lee also mentioned in the chat here, there's the endocrine series. So if you want to see how it all comes together, that's where the library really comes in handy, because you can start in one place and explore another place. And if you're wondering, gosh, I started in the perimenopause, menopause, and aging, where do I go from here? Feel free to contact us at hello@woodherbs.com. You see our friendly, helpful team members here are very knowledgeable and can help you at any stage as well. Lee, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to say the endocrine, but it was already said.
Yep, it is all connected. And so there are just various routes. To summarize it, you can go a la carte, choose any of the female reproductive system courses and get 50% off. You can join Library A to Z plus A to Z, get access to over 90 some courses, most of which include a certificate if you would like to get a certificate, which is nice to even just hang up on your wall, or to collect as you may later go for your accreditation for being an herbalist. And especially the Library plus A to Z is nice because, like we mentioned, like, what is your favorite out of the A to Z of those related female reproductive system classes?
Ooh, I like I like woodland plants. Honestly, there's something unique, and because I'm in North America, I really appreciate the herbs that are discussed there, because they are uniquely like Native American based, eclectic based. It's just very North American, and there's just some gorgeous plants in there. I personally love spring ephemerals, and like trillium is in there. Yeah, so I really like that one. But man, listening to Phyllis talk about red clover and Queen Anne's lace, you'll get to know those really well. She's very well versed at those.
Yeah, and there's a whole class on just red clover and Queen Anne's lace. Like how much more in depth can you get, right? I would say my favorite out of those mentioned are the Three Sisters class. Matthew and Phyllis list out the female heritage herbs of North America that are these are herbs that are unique to native to North America and unique to the female reproductive system that are very interesting. And also, I'd never heard that before until I heard them talk about it.
I'm going to put that in the chat here. The Three Sisters, and yours was Lee, was the woodland herbs.
Yeah, I like the woodland plants one.
Yeah, there really are some gems. It's quite incredible. So if all of that sounded interesting, I suggest Library plus A to Z. Plus, A to Z includes one new live class per month. What is our next topic? It's a great one.
Herbs for anger management, it's anger, bitterness, resentment. Yeah, I'm getting the words all mixed up, but it has to do with anger.
You know, the holidays are among us, and we know there's time for big emotions of all sorts. So we got you covered. We got you covered here. So that was wonderful. That was really great. We look forward to hearing from y'all. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us at hello@woodherbs.com. We got you covered here through the holiday season. We have more great stuff coming up. Stay tuned to our watch parties. We're doing about one a week. So stay wherever you're watching this. Just make sure to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. They're a bit of a surprise, so you'll find out new topics, but as you've noticed, they are very apropos to what's going on. So wishing you a calm, cool, collective Thanksgiving. Make sure to get your yams in there if you can find them.
Legumes.
Yeah, and your legumes. Yep, good tip. I think that comes up in Chinese medicine also. I think that's some of their recommendations. So wonderful. Great. Great to see you all. That was fun. That was a good one. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Adios.